Get ready to embark on an electrifying entrepreneurial journey.
Join us as we dive into the minds of 5 extraordinary entrepreneurs who have scaled online businesses to awe-inspiring heights. Gary Green, Chris Miller, Lori Brown, Bobby Christie, and Terry Wilson are here to share their secrets of success.
From visionaries to marketing mavens, these remarkable individuals will unveil their strategies, challenges, and pivotal moments that shaped their rise.
The Big 5 podcast starts now.
Well, this is episode 3 of the Big 5. But tonight, we're with the final 4. I think Bobby, he said he was at a bar. Was that that was the excuse? He said I asked him if he wanted to be on the call tonight. He says, I got 1 bar. I says, well, don't go to 2 bars because you won't be able to walk home. No, I think there's some inclement weather in North Carolina, eastern North Carolina, and it's knocked over some cell phone things. And so he has 1 bar of signal and it goes in and out. So he said, unfortunately, I'm going to miss tonight. So I says, man, I was looking forward to hearing some of his stories, but we'll have to catch up next time. Tonight,
the show goes on.
The show goes on.
Goes on. We don't stop the show. What's the quote that they say? The show must go on.
The show must go on. It must. Lori, it's got to go on. Even if we have to stop and take bathroom breaks, it's got to go on.
I can't help it.
When I was in school to learn how to become a hypnotherapist, one of the guys asked the instructors, because they were teaching us little games to get started, like, how to get somebody's hand to raise all on its own involuntarily, right?
Yeah.
And the guy says to him, well, what if the hand doesn't go up? And he just looks at him and is like, I don't understand the question. It has to go up. You told it to.
You're hypnotized. Come on.
It's like, what? Why wouldn't it go up?
Why wouldn't it go on? Do you not believe in what you're doing? For real. Well, if you've been out in front of people and spent any time with people, sales is nothing different than just dealing with people. I mean, we've all had those family reunions, those school reunions, going to church and meeting, and there's awkward situations, there's funny situations, there's memorable situations, there's like, oh my God, I can't believe what my eyes are telling me. I don't believe what I'm seeing. There's all those situations. And I love getting around sales folks like we have on tonight and listening to some of their stories, because it's just so endearing, because God knows I've had my share of, events. We'll put it that way. But we'll open it up. Greenbacks, give us some stories from the front lines as you've been in sales for quite a while.
Man, I've got some stories, man. I mean, years ago, I used to you just like anybody that's, has money, you're like, let's do business. But then you learn, you're like, you know what? There might be a small percentage that you just don't want to do business with that person. So
you couldn't pay me enough.
You're like, you learn more. The more, as you get older, you learn more, right? In your craft or whatever that you're doing. So definitely looking back on that as a learning experience, having some difficult clients that, did business with that wasn't the best business decision, doing that. So. Oh yeah, definitely got some stories. I mean, I had one that kind of jumps out before I get into mine. I had one guy who was in car sales, right?
Yeah.
And man, they'd sell bell to bell. They're there 12, 15, 20 hours a day. They basically live there, right?
Yeah.
And they don't stop until the deal's done. And I had this one friend of mine, he said he stayed there. He was closing this deal for 12 hours. Okay. He wasn't going to lose, right?
Right.
So that's one out there that's like, hey, that just, make a quick comment about that. But the one I wanted to talk about first is, so I signed this guy up, and you know who I'm talking about once I, give you a little bit of the details. Yeah. Signed the guy up. He's like, okay, we're going to be able to help you. We're going to be able to do this for your business. We're going to be able to help you with this, with technology, with this coaching and stuff like that. Signed him up. He sounds coherent. He's like,
oh, I already know.
He can put, 2 sentences together, right? So we're thinking, okay, he's good.
Yeah.
Man, the guy gets signed up, get the money.
Yeah.
Get the money. Then we're going through training. We're doing over different things, helping him get, just the general setup. All of a sudden, man, this is just like a different person. I mean, but he had a knack to turn everything else, it's hard to actually really articulate, because his comments would make it's your fault, not being rude, but he would just, everything that he replied back, I mean, 90% of it was like your fault. And he was like manipulating to get more out of just any little scenario. Before you know it, it was just like, there's no way we can continue doing business, right?
Yeah.
It got so bad. And we were like, well, I don't know how this guy got signed up, but hey, it happened. We shouldn't have did business with the guy. But what do you do afterwards? We're like, but I would talk to him, try to have a coherent conversation with him, right?
Yeah.
And like, this, you're not right. This is not right. What you're saying, what you're doing, what you're doing. And then I heard like a little comment, like he registered. He knew what he was doing, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't just something, he was just like, his personality was acting like this guy's doing it intentionally. So, but trying to explain it the best way that I can. But he was just I can count on one hand how the most difficult people that I've had to work with. And he's just one of them there that jumps out. Finally, I was just like, hey, you know what? I'll just give you all your money back. Don't ever contact me again the rest of your life. And I've never done that, but maybe twice or whatever, right?
Right.
I said, don't even have my name come out of your mouth at all.
Matter of fact,
it got so bad, right?
You can't even look at the color green anymore.
I said, yeah, right. You can't even look at the color green. Don't pass go. Goodbye, right? So it got to that point. I was just like, I can't spend another second of energy, even communicating with this person, because it was just like, how you're getting better or you're not getting better in the day. I was definitely not getting better by continuing a relationship with him. Okay. So it was just like,
you are a cancer on my soul.
So I think you remember it was 1 year ago. It was a guy.
Yeah, I remember.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And he's just like, just had the knack to turn everything around in just the most unique way. It was like, I've never even really heard of that before, ever.
Yeah.
Except for one particular person. And I was just like, oh, wow, I definitely remember. That's why I'm talking about it, here today.
He had a Jezebel spirit about him, for real. He was I guess in legal terms, they said he operated in bad faith. Everything he did was in bad faith. Nothing was prima facie. Nothing was at face value. And there was always an agenda, always a hook. And you set your price as to, this is what it costs to do business with me. But he didn't set his price saying, I'm willing. He just kept upping the cost of that business with you. He priced you out of the market. You couldn't have charged him enough.
Oh, yeah. So you couldn't make this guy happy. It didn't matter.
No, it's a bottomless hole. And then,
but that went on for several weeks, and finally we were just like, you know what? This is just. Hey, I got to get back to some kind of a normal track.
say, sir, we went into business. We didn't get married. I'm not doing this.
The calls were coming in. It was just like, oh man, it was just. I don't know if anybody's ever even had that happen. Like I said, Terry, it's hard to actually articulate it because it was just something that you just really don't witness normally, right? And so I was just like, where did this guy get this skill from, right? If he would actually turn that skill into something that was going to, help him, right? He'd be better off, for sure.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
What'd you say, Chris? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, sometimes you just got to ask them if they'd ever heard the term non-productive.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the thing, though, when you're dealing with that type of personality and spiritual matter, you can't use reason. These people are, the facts and reason and rationale doesn't matter. I want what I want, and I will do whatever it takes. I will, drag your name through the mud. I will make your life miserable. I will say whatever I have to say. I will do what I have to do to get what I want. When you're dealing with someone like that, it's just, it's the pits.
Cut them loose.
Yeah.
Cut them loose. And hey, there's another one too that we may be talking about a little bit later. The more recent one, right? Where we were having like a internal meeting. That guy there, he ranks right up with the one that I just talked about. So
I'm telling you,
we got like a small little handful. We're very fortunate. You do a lot of business, you're going to have a percentage that are just you're going to like.
Well, in 15 years and 4,500 people or more, actually close to 5,000 people now, If we've only had 3 or 4, I count that as a win. I count that as a win. You just going when you fish as much as we do, and you have a net as wide as ours, we're going to pull up some trash every once in a while. A boot saying, "This ain't a fish. I just get in the net."
Well, you told that guy, you said, out of all my years in doing business, you're the only one that has.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's a pretty strong statement.
Are you not? You realize you were the only person I've ever had to do this with. Good night. Well, anyway, Chris, you've been on the front lines of quite a while. You're an old soul like me, door to door. You did vacuums like I did. You sold all kinds of things.
You did the wrong one, man.
Hey, wet dust can't fly. I don't know what they told you, but you can't stomp.
Right.
You can't stomp dust out of a mud puddle. I love my rainbow. Still got it. But anyway, I digress. Tell me.
Kirby's gold plated, buddy.
Oh my God.
I'm just gonna say that.
Here we go.
No, but some serious fun stuff happened from my Kirby days. I'll tell you that.
I bet.
Stories from Rainbow, but yeah, I'll tell you a couple quick ones that come to my brain right now. One was, you guys know me, right? I'm a hard charger, right? I mean, I just don't have that whole let's talk about it later mentality. I'm like, right?
Right.
So this one year, I think it was back in 96. Yeah. I was trying to get promoted and get my own shop, right? Because there was an opening in the area. And I said, I want that store. I want my own store. And so I was busting my tail, selling Kirby's left and right. I was knocking doors like a fool, man. And I missed Christmas. It's like, I am so laser focused that I didn't find out that it was Christmas until the dude was signing a contract for the Kirby. He signed it, not a contract, but it was the warranty card, right?
Yeah.
Put the date on it. And he wrote 12/24. And I went, whoa. Is it Christmas Eve? I haven't done any shopping. I haven't done nothing, right?
Wait a minute. I have a family.
All of a sudden, I'm tearing this dude's check up. I'm like, nope, we about to do the prices right up in here. What do you have you don't need anymore? Because I need presents. I'm giving him deals on the Kirby. I was like, okay, well, you got some golf clubs over there. I'll give you $150 for them. What you got over here? Wheeling and dealing off of my commission checks.
Oh my word.
Thing in the world. So that next morning, right, of course, I go home that night. I wrap all these things up, right? And, my uncle gets like a golf shirt and and a clown. And my mother gets some old dishware,
It says, I love to my wife.
Is this guy not making any money? Do we need to help him out?
That is so funny.
Oh my gosh. But this is the fun things that happen. Another really crazy thing that happened was there was this guy. I'll never forget this guy, right? His name was Phil Walsh. And if you have ever seen ZZ Top,
yeah,
there's your idea of what Phil Walsh looked like.
All
right. But imagine him now, just his boxer shorts, no shirt, and his yard is a little fenced in yard full of peacocks. Okay. Full of peacocks. And then he's got an old Dodge Charger up on blocks with the hood beside it. Right. The screen door half hanging off of the house. Okay. Just barely on there. Inside, this guy's got no carpet. Zero carpet. He's got one shag area rug that he's got underneath a coffee table, which is propped up on books because one of the legs is missing. All right. And he's got one couch pretty much the same way, right? It's all torn up. Nothing about this dude says I should be there. and my boss, who is my team leader, is in the truck going, let's get the hell out of here. It's like, what are we doing here? I said, I don't know, something about this guy. I want to know more about him, right? I said, you know, this dude's got a big screen TV in there, and he's got every book in the Bible on tape on that wall. Something about this guy's not adding up, and I want to know what it's all about. He said, man, let's go make some money. I said, well, you go on ahead. I'm going to go run this show. And, you know, the show takes about an hour.
Right.
So it was a big investment for me to do that. And so I run this show, and it turns out at the end, Phil doesn't care. He doesn't care about cleaning his house. That's obvious. You know what I mean? He doesn't care about vacuums. He's got an old Electrolux that hasn't worked in 5 years. And you know what I mean? But he does tell me one key piece of information. And if you're a salesperson out there listening to the Big Five podcast with the Final Four here tonight, you're going to catch this. All right. He says, well, the ladies come over once a month to play gin, and I got to clean the place up when that happens. So I'm in the cleaning business, right?
That's right.
And I go, well, Phil, wouldn't it be easier to let them clean for you? Because the ladies love these Kirby's. he gets this look on his long beard, right? He's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
He says, give me a minute. He walks to the back of the house, and I don't see him again for like 10 minutes. And I finally go looking for him. I'm like, Phil, you all right? Did you die back here? What's going on? And he goes, well, you can come on back if you want. And I go in there. This dude's got a network of computers, right? Like the entire room is a network with like 12 computers. I'm talking supercomputers and stuff, right? Each with their own dial-up modem, each with their own, remember dial-up modems back in the day?
I remember.
The whole shebang for each one. He's flipping through checkbooks. He's like, I can't figure out which one I want to write the check out for. And he goes, here, you pick. And he just fans out like 7 of them in front of me. I go, I don't know, that one. What do you do for a living? It turns out, dude, designed missiles for the government.
Good Lord.
You know what I mean? He don't care about his house. He's not a material guy.
I'm a NASA engineer. What do you want from me?
Well, my boss was just completely lost when he comes back and I don't have the machine with me and I got cash in my hand instead, crazy things like that happen. I had a dude chase me around a house with a musket from back in the Revolutionary War. He goes out to play golf, right?
Yeah.
And his wife looks at me and goes, it's all right, I got my own money. And he yells at her from the door because he heard that. He goes, oh, don't you buy nothing. So he comes back like as she's writing the check. Oh, he got mad. He's like, that's it. I'm coming after you now. And he goes to the back. And the dude's like 80 years old, right?
Lord.
He picks up a musket and she goes, you better hurry on, honey. And she off I go out the front door, right? He's hightailing it after me, chases me around his house twice.
Oh, Lord.
He gets all winded and stuff. So I said, hang on, man, hang on. And I went and got him a chair, sat him down. I ran back inside, got him a glass of water, made sure he's okay. Everything all right? Long story short on that, because I know I'm taking a long time.
Oh, you're fine.
I sold him 2 Kirby's. I sold him one for his wife, and I sold him one for his daughter.
Nice. Nice. Well, the good thing about that musket, it would have gone 8 feet out of the way anyway if he tried to shoot it at you.
Yeah. I was like, where did you even get that thing, man? He's all like, oh, I've had that forever.
Probably some old Civil War artifact or something. I think that was
he had to stop to load that thing, right? To pack it.
Yeah, you have to pack those things. It would have probably blown up in his face if he hadn't been sitting there packed for so long.
I have absolutely loved every minute of my life as a door-to-door man.
Oh man, I tell you, you learn something every time you're out. Every time you're out, and the amount of psychology you can learn just being in sales, cold call sales. I'm telling you, it is amazing. It'll prepare
Rejection
you for.
means nothing to you after a while.
Oh, it's your friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all like, get out of here. All right. I'm going to be next door, though, if you need me.
Yeah. Well, before I leave, you got any friends that that would find value?
Change your mind. You know where to find me is across the street right there.
That's right. Lori, you've been selling stuff for quite a while.
Yeah, so I'm going to go in the Wayback Machine here.
Ooh.
Speaking of rainbow vacuums,
Yes.
I used to sell rainbow vacuums.
Did you
Oh
really?
my goodness.
That's right. I knew I liked you.
Oh
See?
my.
So I was going out on the show, and it was out in the middle of somewhere in rural Kentucky, like down this country dirt road.
Yeah.
And I finally find the place. It's a single wide trailer. I'm like, okay, I'll just do it for prayer. And I do the demo, and I mean, what come out of there was mud.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, we'll take it. Like, really?
You are me.
So they, they fill out the credit app and stuff. And I finished up and I'm driving home. And I got to think, they just spent 25% of the value of the house they live in on a vacuum. There's something wrong with it.
That's why they live in. Never mind.
So after that, I was selling insurance.
Yeah.
And it was cancer insurance. And they offered a return of premium after 20 years. If there were no claims, that they would get their premium back.
Yeah.
And again, in rural Kentucky, and it was door to door. And I don't know how many houses I pulled up where you were greeted with a couple Rottweilers. Right. So I'm talking to this old man. He was like 95 years old. And I sell him this insurance policy where in 20 years he's going to get return of premium.
Gave him a reason to live.
And I'm driving home. I'm like, guy's going to be like 120 years old. He's never getting his.
You don't know.
I mean, this wasn't going to happen. Now, the next story was when I was with Yellow Pages and I was a manager, and part of my job was to do ride-alongs with some of the sales. Well, this one particular day, I was doing a ride-along with Mr. Wonderful, who was also a sales rep.
Okay.
And we were going to see this attorney. And, if you're in Yellow Pages, you got excited when you were going to talk to attorney because they were the ones that they spent the big bucks on the advertising.
Yeah.
So we were all excited. So we walk in this guy's office, and on his desk sat a revolver. Okay. Behind his desk was a portrait painting, full frontal nude. And let me tell you, they were big.
All right.
I mean, the picture was big. This portrait was like 8 feet tall. It was huge.
Well, maybe he had vision problems.
And now, remember, I'm with Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay? And the guy says, yeah, that's my wife. And talk about being shut down. I don't think Zig Ziglar himself would have known what to say. Because what we're looking at this guy, but right behind him is this full frontal nude of this guy's wife.
I'd have started singing.
Man.
Well, and I figured out, he does that to put people on.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
I mean,
He just broke the pattern of the
You're
people
just looking at this picture. And then to top it off, we used to give our best customers a hardbound directory of the Yellow Pages. And back in the day, these books were like 3-4 inches thick, hardbound. He said, "Hey, can I get one of those hardbound telephone books? Because I like to shoot bullets through them." Like, yeah, we'll be right back. We don't have one on us. We'll be right back. Yeah. So I say all that to say, there are some people that, you want to make a sale and you made the sale, but then after the sale, you think, they weren't a good fit, or I just took advantage of them. Yeah. Or, in the case of this attorney guy, what a jerk.
Yeah.
Who has a picture like that? And, sometimes there's people you don't want to do business.
Well, that's the thing. But
right.
The beautiful thing is, I think Gary alluded to it, and you're bringing it back. But I think when you first start in sales, your mindset is sell, 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 sell. And then as you're in sales for a while, you start learning, sometimes I couldn't charge enough. And so it's not always selling. It's more qualify, and then sell.
Right. But there's other prospects who, if you take their money, it's usury. And the thing is, just keep that in mind. If you sell, and it has nothing to do with your sales skills or your belief in your product or anything like that, but if you sell because of what's in it for you, and not what's in it for them, you always keep what their needs and what's a good fit for them, and can they afford it, or is this going to be helpful for them? Write good business. And keep your customer, put your customer first, not your own pocket.
Yeah.
And I promise you, everything will all work.
It always works out. I used to have a saying back when I was in the music business. It says, "We want your business. We don't want your money." And
I like it.
And that's the distinction. I don't want your money. I want your business. If I got your business, I'll make my money, but I got to have your business. And business means it's equitable. I'm giving you, and I'm trying to give you more value actually than what you're giving me back in monetary compensation. But if we ever get upside down with that, all of a sudden it's about the money and not the business. But I love that. I love that story.
And you know what they say, you reap what you sow.
Oh, you better believe it.
But the question is, are you reaping or are you sowing?
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just can't talk people out of it, though. Like I had this lady long time ago. I was selling cruise packages, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were putting out these ads, and people were calling in and stuff like that. And then I was an inbound dude, and I was just taking the calls and talking to them. And this woman, she's telling me how she needs this vacation so bad because she's got 4 kids, and she doesn't have any money, and she can barely pay all of her bills each month and everything else. And everything about this is like, well, you can't afford to take this vacation. I don't know what you're thinking, but you can't buy this cruise package. Yeah. And the more I told her no, the more she wanted it. The more I said, look, it's not about, she's like, I promise I can pay for it. And I said, I don't care if you can pay for it. I want you to put food on your table for your kids, and no matter what I said, she just would not take no for an answer. She bought that thing, whether I agreed or not. And in fact, I didn't agree, but my boss was listening on the overphone, and they took care of it for me. I was like, I'm not selling it to you. I think you need to feed your children.
Yeah, because she wanted something that she didn't have at that point. You're like, no. She's like, wait. I can do this if I want to.
Especially in really different industries are regulated different. But I tell you, in the financial market, they call you a fiduciary for a reason, and you better have that client's best interest at heart. It don't matter if they wanted it or not, because you're going to stand before a judge if you put a financial product in front of someone and they bought it and it hurt them. I mean, you'll lose your license and all kinds of other stuff if it can be proven. So, yeah, but yeah, you have to do due diligence. Do what you can to serve the people. My first lesson in that, because it's always a judgment. It's always a judgment call, because you don't want to sell somebody something they can't afford or it wouldn't be helpful. But at the same time, you want to serve them, and if they want something, you can't prejudge them. And I learned that when I was a junior in high school. I think I put this in the book, but if I'm repeating myself, I apologize. I know I haven't said it on this podcast, so I'll tell this story first. But my first job, as you guys know, my first real job was McDonald's, but I got recruited into sales out of that and started selling cookware door to door. And back then, I wasn't sophisticated. I'm a teenager. I'm younger than River is now, and so I don't know how to get in front of people. So the way they would book appointments for us is they used to have these glass bowls at the county fair. Remember these glass bowls? And what it is put your name and your number in here to win a dinner for four, free dinner for four from New Era Cookware. Is what they was doing. Well, everybody that put their name in there won, because they was asking them a survey. And if you did you own your home? This kind of stuff. And if you owned your home, then they were going to give it to someone like me, and they're going to charge me $25. And then I was going to go and I was going to cook them and 4 other couples a dinner to present them and try to sell them this waterless stainless steel cookware. Well, they sent me up to Appalachia, on the border of Tennessee, North Carolina, and Kentucky, up there in the Appalachian Mountains. And I kid you not, I get to this shack in the woods. It wasn't a trailer. It was something built in the 1800s. Okay. It did not have electricity. They had drop cords ran in from their neighbor's house. It did not have indoor plumbing. It had an outhouse, and then out from a spigot outside that you'd run it in through the kitchen, the glass window of the kitchen, and they had this big tub. And I was like, what am I doing here? And I'm cooking on an old potbelly stove. That's the setup here. And so the normal thing is you cook it, and isn't that good? Did you notice I cooked that meat and I didn't use any oil? Did you notice I cooked all those vegetables, didn't use any water? Did you notice how it tastes so fresh? It's so good. There's no oily. It doesn't clog up your arteries when you eat it. You can eat this way every night, and you use this cookware the way we show you. It'll pay for itself, and the money it saves you on groceries and doctor bills and blah, blah, blah. There's the pitch. And then while they're eating the dinner, what I'm supposed to be doing is washing them all up, polishing them up, getting them display, and then say, I'd like to meet with each couple if I could for just a second to see if this makes sense for you. I've never mentioned a price. This is 1991. This is $2,500 in cookware. I don't do any of that. I don't polish them up. I throw them in my bag as soon as I fed these people while they're eating. I says, well, folks... Folks, it's been great seeing you tonight. It's been great talking to you, great meeting you. I wish you all the best. Nice to meet your mom and dad, and nice to meet your kids over here. Lovely kids. You said it's getting married. It's so wonderful. I'm going to have to get on down the hill, folks, but it's good. And the old man is there, he ain't got but an old wife beater t-shirt on, and then overalls over top of that. He said, wait a minute, son. How much does something like that cost you? I was like, well, sir, I said, I'm ashamed to tell you how expensive this is. It costs so much, but it's not me, sir. The company, they want $2,500. Can you believe that? They want $2,500 for pots and pans. Now, do you hear my voice? And you hear I'm just downplaying it? And here's like, and trying to get this man say, it's okay. I understand this is too much. I understand it, because living like they're living, ain't no way I could sleep at night trying to pitch this to these folks. And he goes, well, son, my mama over here has always been bugging me for a new set of cookware. and we've been married now for 30 years, and it's about time I get her something nice. You say it's $2,500? And I said, yes, sir. And he goes, would you take cash? And I was like, excuse me? And I'm thinking, I can't take Confederate money. It has to be, the U.S. dollar. I'm trying to think, what is this guy going to come out with? And he goes, well, do you have another set with you? I said, what? He said, do you have another set? Because he mentioned his daughter, and my daughter and him is getting married next month, and it wouldn't be right to get mama a set and not get her a set. It'd be a nice wedding. I'd like to go ahead and get two if you got it. I was like, yeah, I got another set in the car, because I always carry two in the car and one to cook with, because you're meeting with 4 couples. He goes back, he pulls out a sock and pulls out of that sock $100 bills just wrapped up with a rubber band. And he counts out $5,000, puts it in my hand. And he says, and you did such a great job, and gave me $100 tip for the meal. He said, this was the best food I've ever had in my life. And I went down that hill. It was an hour and a half to get back home. And I was scratching my head going, what just happened? But the fact of the matter is that man lived like he lived because he wanted to, not because he had to. And I was trying to project my value system on his value system, and you can't do that. So that's where the difference is. Sometimes you got to let people make their decisions, and you got to be wise as yourself. But after seeing this man probably walking around with $30,000 in cash, he's fine. He just, he's going to spend his money on what he's going to spend his money on. So you can't project your value on people.
Yeah, he was your Phil Walsh.
He was. He was. I just could not believe it.
You can't judge a book by its cover.
You cannot judge a book by its cover. And you got, I took away, you give everybody 100%, and you try to do right by them. And that looks different for everybody. So it's you and the Lord just trying to say, okay, what should I do here? But at the end of the day, if let them do what they're going to do, as long as it don't hurt them. I had one other that just fast forward. I'm an adult now. This happened about 14 years ago. I just started TW3, and I was still in the insurance business at the time. And I was using our tools here to promote my insurance business. Someone responded to a robocall that I was sending out and told me my uncle desperately needs life insurance, and on your recording it says it's a guaranteed issue final expense plan that pays up to $250,000. I said, yeah. And they gave me the person's age, and I quoted them, and it was about $300 a month for this $250,000 policy. And they said, okay, if you can get down here to Greenville, we'll buy it from you. We want it. And I was like, well, I can't come down today because I got another appointment over here. And it was a closing. And they says, well, if you don't come today, we're not going to buy it. We'll get it from somebody else. And so I had to make a decision. I had a closing over here that was a term life insurance thing, and it wasn't but like $30 a month. And then I had this down there that was like $300 and some odd dollars a month. And I was like, okay, hold on one second. I called my appointment, see if I could bump it back. They were fine. Drove all the way down to Greenville, get down there, and the guy that they're wanting to insure is laying in his bed, and he passed away the day before. And I was like, you're trying to insure a dead man? Do you understand how insurance works? And they couldn't understand. They couldn't buy life insurance on this fella, and I had to blow off someone, and sort of put a strain on them. So, I always tell people, a bird in the hand sometimes better than 3 in the bush. I should have done a lot more qualifying, like, oh, can I speak to him on the phone? Can I talk to the guy? But I didn't. So that was my bad on that. But anyway, those are my 2 funny stories from the field. But you meet all kinds, don't you?
Woo! Don't you?
And you never know it. It's about to happen. It just hits you like out of the blue. You're like, wow, I was not expecting this to take place, right?
No, I cannot tell you how many times I've slipped up and found a sale. That's what we try to tell our new clients and members all day. If you'll just do the activity, if you'll just get out there and speak to people, Just talk to people. Just keep your activity up. You will be amazed at what will happen. But so many times people are afraid to get out in front of people, get out and do the activity. And that's the only way it happens, is getting out in front of people and staying active.
Absolutely. Yeah. The one who gets the sale is the one who's willing to do what other people aren't willing to do.
Right.
I had a couple years ago, well, I guess it was, maybe 6 or 7 years ago now, I had a situation where I was going door to door, and there's this yard and it's fenced in, and there's this really mean sounding Rottweiler, right, running loose in that yard. And then the house is way in the middle, right? And we're talking about like an acre size yard, and the house is way in the center. And I opened up that gate. I walked on in there, and that dog, was snarling up. I got down on my knee and I went, "Hey, cutie." And that dog came right up to me and just let me pet it and just rolled over and everything else. Meanwhile, I see my competitor, who's been in the neighborhood all week long, right, go by and just shaking his head like, "I can't believe that just happened." And that woman bought everything I could sell.
Oh, my word.
I was the only one that would knock on her door. She's a good friend of mine still today. Her name is Sue.
Wow.
You made it past the guard dog.
Yeah, well, her dog is a sweetheart. She would get mad at me about that too. She said, "You're a bad influence on her because she's supposed to be intimidating folks."
Oh, goodness. I'm telling you what, dogs and sales calls out there, I've had a few. Good night. Some of them scare you to death. There's one I drove up on. I didn't even get out of the car because they had this big dog, and it just came up on my windshield like that. I was calling the guy, they wasn't answering. I said, "I'm not going up there knocking on their door. I'm not getting out of this car," because it looked like a German Shepherd or something, just a big old dog. Probably wouldn't even have hurt me, but it scared the life out of me.
Oh, the dog knows you're scared. I mean, that's
they're feeding off on it. Hey, we got a toy.
Oh, yeah.
No, a chew toy.
It's out.
Yep.
Miss Spelling Bee, did you lose power out there?
Yeah, I lost power for a second, and I lost my internet, so I jumped on my hotspot.
Oh, no. Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it's just the drain from the global boiling.
All that air conditioning y'all are using out there right now is so hot. For real. Okay.
Hey, I had a sale one time where I was like, "Oh, he's not going to do it." So I grabbed his lead or whatever, and I threw it in the trash. I said, "This deal's dead. It's not going anywhere." I'm like, you know what? It's like, balled it up, throw it in the trash. Next thing you know, the phone rings, ding, and then it goes down. You're like, "What? What just happened?" And I said, "Well, I might be onto something, right?"
Oh, my word. Well, I think the moral of all these stories is qualify, but don't project your values on others. You got to let them, and don't judge a book by its cover, and just, do your best to do right by everyone you come in contact with, so
don't be afraid to take the risk.
Don't be afraid to take the risk.
Yeah. What you were saying, Chris, is just getting out and speaking. Most people don't want to do that, and getting out in front and talking, which I don't look forward to that, but I push myself out there, just to do it, there. So, because I know it's not going to be perfect, but I get better and better at it. Yeah. So, it's, I also want to say something about that, because that's very true. I mean, a lot of people aren't going to just they're going to be thinking about it too much in their head. Meanwhile, they should just go ahead and just go for it, and then let everything just kind of work itself from there,
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been a victim of overthinking things many times, and
same here.
Coach Bobby, I think he was right. Is ready, fire, aim. Right, just go ahead and you'll figure out where you missed. Just shoot the thing. You'll see the bullet and where it went stray. Oh, I was supposed to be over here.
Yeah, one of the things I learned in the Army was the after action review. And that has served me well. So when I go out there and, I make a sales call and it doesn't go well, I figure out why. I do an after action review and I say, what did I do here? And what did they do? And what did I do in response? And why did they start yelling?
Why did I get my butt chewed out?
Where did I go wrong?
Where's the breakdown here? Oh, my word. Well, you can do everything right and still screw up. So you got to be okay with sometimes things not being okay. When I was in the music business, I bought this Weber piano, Weber Parlor Grand piano from this lady that had this piano in her sunroom. Why would you put a piano in a sunroom? But she did. In her sunroom for like 20 years. Well, in a sunroom in South Carolina, you are baking that piano. You are baking it. So, but it was a nice piano. It played well. I went out and tested it and everything, and it played well. So we bought it from her, brought it in, set it up in the showroom. A gentleman came in from up in North Carolina, played it, fell in love with it, got emotionally attached to it because it just so happened that's the exact type of piano he grew up on learning to play, and he'd always wanted. And it just so happened to be the exact model, size, everything. Wasn't his piano because it's a different color and everything, different year. So he buys the piano and asks us to refinish the piano because it'd been in that sunroom. It had cracked. The ebony finish on it had cracked, and it looked like gator skin. So we was going to have to totally strip that thing down, put a new ebony coat on it, and he didn't want to polish, but he wanted like a rub finish on it. So told him we could do that. Well, when I took that piano from the front of the store where the door of the store was, and I put it in the back so that our piano tuner could start doing all the work on it and refinishing and all that, it got into a cooler part of the store. And what had happened was, now that piano wasn't under heat, the crown of that soundboard settled. And when it settled, the strings that goes across the bridge of that piano came down, and it developed a buzz. And I was like, holy crap, what's going on? So I call my tuner in. He goes, oh, Terry, this piano has been in heat for the last 20 years. And now if it stays in any climate that's a normal air-conditioned climate, which most modern homes would be now, you're going to have a brand new soundboard because we can't even shimmy this up. That buzz is never going to go away. It's lost its crown, because soundboards on guitars and acoustic pianos are the same. There's a little bit of arch in it, and that's what gives it that reverberation. So I call the guy. I'm trying to be honest here. Okay. I don't want to try, because here's the thing. I could have had that tuner shimmy that bridge, and it would have worked for a few months, 6 months, 8 months, but it eventually had gone back down. I'm not going to do that. And I could have said, hey, as is, it's a used piano. I could have done that. But I called him and said, look, this piano, the soundboard, it's lost its crown. And I explained it just like I explained to you guys. It's going to need a new soundboard to do all this. It's going to be about $3,500 more. I says, or I can just give you your money back, because I wouldn't expect you to buy it if you didn't want to spend that extra. This guy goes belligerent. He tells me, I will get a lawyer and sue you. I bought that piano in the condition I expected it in. You sold it to me. You took my money. I want it as promised. And if you don't do that, I'm going to sue you. And on top of that, my wife works at the time of Rutherford Hospital, which was a hospital right beside a church I was an associate pastor at. And she knows so-and-so, and we'll make sure everybody in that church knows that their music minister and associate pastor is a scoundrel. So he was blackmailing me, and he was just strong-arming me. And here I was just trying to be honest. I wasn't trying to take. And so I just like, what do you do? What do you do? And I was just, 24-year-old kid at that time working in a music store. So, I went back, and it says there to bless those who despitefully use you and wrongfully accuse you, And so I went to the owners of the store, and I said, listen, here's what he's doing. And they says, we got lawyers. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. I was like, yeah, I understand, but then there's going to be this thing in the community, and I'll be right, but I'll always have to have this argument. I'll always have to have this discussion. I would just rather shove this thing I would rather shove a blessing down his throat and dare him to say something. So I ended up taking my commission check that quarter and paying for that piano to be totally rebuilt for that guy. And then giving him his money back. He got that piano for free on top of that. He got a free piano with that. And then on the receipt, I put Luke 18, whatever the verse was, I can't remember. And he didn't say anything. I said, here you go. Paid in full because of, and I put that passage. His wife comes in 2 days later. What's this about? I was like, well, I'm just trying to be an honorable Christian and do what's right. What does this have to do with this piano? She didn't even know the story. And I says, well, your husband, and his name was Tom. I won't go any further than that. Tom said this is this. He did what? He did what? Later on, I sold 3 pianos and an organ to a church that she knew up in Brevard because of that situation right there. Because she says, I'm making it, she had it out. She did not go along with what he was doing. And she was mortified when she found out that he was using her as leverage because of her connections to. And so I say all that to say sometimes you can do everything right and still the customer, the client, the situation. And it's in those moments I say back up and just dare someone to do anything when you over bless and you just say, okay, you want it, take it. Here you go.
Over deliver. And
it might not have worked out that way, but still it was the right thing, I think.
I love that story. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. When you can do the right thing, you might not get paid off like that day, but at some point in the future, it'll, more than likely come back, for you.
Well, I honestly believe, guys, we just turned 15 years old this year. The only way you stay in business online, because anybody can say anything about anybody, anytime online anymore with no recourse. To assault someone's reputation is so easy in today's world. And I think the way we have all survived that and kept a good brand name out there is people don't always agree with our decisions. They don't. And we can't make everyone happy. But no one can ever say we didn't do exactly what we said we would do before, during, and after we do business with them. And try our best in multiple ways to communicate our heart, what we're about, and why we do what we do. And I think if you do business that way, in the long haul, you might not make the money up front, but you'll have the business in the long term.
And if it doesn't work, remember, we know where you live.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Good show, guys. Good show. Great stories.
This was fun.
This was great. Had fun.
Awesome.
We miss you, Bobby. We hope you are getting out of that 1 bar and getting to 2 bars, maybe. There in Eastern North Carolina.
He's lucky you'll get to all 5.
People listening, they're like, what bar are they talking about?
What bar is he talking about? All right. Well, this has been episode 3 of the Big 5 podcast. You can check it out at Spotify. It is now on Spotify and soon will be in different directories there as well. And of course, you can connect with any of the Big 5 by going to TerryWilson3.com/Big5. And there's a link there that'll connect you to any one of us that you want to connect with. Till next time, we will see you later.